Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we're diving into some corporate paperwork that's about as exciting as watching paint dry. Well, maybe not, because it involves a company getting bought out. This report is about the Shyft Group, a company that makes specialty vehicles. They're getting bought by a Swiss company called AB Schmidt, but some shareholders are not happy. Let's see why. If you are into getting the real story from company reports, please subscribe and join our Discord community in the description. It's full of people who share the latest financial news. So the big news here is this merger, this getting bought deal with AB Schmidt. Back in December of last year, Shyft agreed to be taken over. Basically, AB Schmidt is buying Shyft and making it a part of their company. To make it work, AB Schmidt created two shell companies, Ash US Group and Badger Merger Sub is merging into Shyft, meaning Shyft will become a subsidiary, a smaller piece of AB Schmidt. But here's where things get a little messy. Some Shyft shareholders are suing. They are filing complaints about the deal. They claim that the information they got about the merger, the proxy statement, didn't tell them everything they needed to know. They say there were important things left out, misrepresentations, and that makes it incomplete. Two lawsuits have already been filed in New York. One is called Matthew Hamilton versus the Shyft Group, and the other is John Thompson versus the Shyft Group. Both are saying the same thing, that the shareholders didn't get all the facts. These shareholders want a judge to stop the merger from happening. They seek an order preventing it. It's not just lawsuits either. Some lawyers representing shareholders have sent demand letters, a formal letter to Shyft saying the same thing. They are complaining that the proxy statement is missing stuff and needs to be fixed before shareholders vote on the deal. The letters even threaten lawsuits if Shyft doesn't cough up more information. Now, Shyft says these claims are bogus, without merit. They believe they've been open and honest about everything. But to avoid a costly legal battle, they're giving some extra information just to make the complaints go away. Shyft wants to make it clear that they're not admitting any wrongdoing. It's more like, okay, fine, here's some more info. Now please stop suing us. If you already voted on the merger, don't worry. This new information doesn't change anything. Shyft still recommends that you vote for the merger. Alright, so what exactly is this extra information? Well, it has to do with how the company's financial advisor, Deutsche Bank, figured out how much Shyft was worth. Deutsche Bank did some number crunching called a discounted cash flow analysis. This is where they estimate how much money Shyft will make in the future and then figure out what that money is worth today. They looked at two different scenarios, two ways of seeing the future. One including Shyft's electric vehicle business called Blue Arc, and one without it. According to Deutsche Bank's calculations, Shyft was worth somewhere between $625 million and $720 million without Blue Arc, or $800 million, $20 million with Blue Arc. Deutsche Bank is now saying the present value of Shyft's free cash flow range from about $45 million to $148 million without Blue Arc, and from $158 million to $148 million in Guadron Blue Arc. They also looked at a similar company, AB Schmidt itself. They did the same calculations and came up with a value between $1.1455 billion and $1.25 billion, and that the present value of AB Schmidt terminal value ranged from $725 million to about $850 million. Shyft hired Deutsche Bank to help with this merger. They're paying them a fee, a payment for their services. A good chunk of that fee depends on how much money Shyft's shareholders get in the deal. In other words, Deutsche Bank gets paid more if the deal is good for the shareholders. As part of these fees, Shyft paid Deutsche Bank $1.5 million when Deutsche Bank gave its opinion on the merger. The board knew that it was important to keep some of Shyft's top people around after the merger, so they tried to come up with ways to incentivize them, to motivate them to stay with AB Schmidt. They knew that if these executives had their jobs significantly changed, such as a cut in pay or a big change in responsibilities, they could quit and get severance pay, separation pay, as described in the Shyft Group Inc. Executive Severance Plan. The people at Shyft also had to consider the laws in Switzerland where AB Schmidt is based. These laws, called Minder rules, affect how much severance pay executives can get if they're appointed to the AB Schmidt board after the merger. It seems like Shyft CEO Mr. Dunn probably wouldn't get a job at AB Schmidt that was as important as his current one, and that is a problem. The company decided to give Joshua Sherbin and Jacob Farmer, two other executives, special payments to encourage them to stay through the merger. But things didn't quite work out as planned. In May, Mr. Sherbin said that if the merger goes through, he's planning to quit for good reason because he's been granted a great severance plan. After that, Shyft and Mr. Sherbin agreed that he would give up all the stock he was given in December and pay back the retention award, the money he was paid to stay with the company. Back in 2022 and 2023, Shyft was talking to another company called Company A about a possible deal. To keep things secret, they signed a confidentiality agreement, which meant they couldn't share each other's information. The agreement also had a don't ask, don't waive clause, which is a funny way of saying that Company A couldn't publicly ask Shyft to change the rules of the agreement. I guess they could ask each other privately, but this means the conversation has to stay between them. Shyft and Abby B. Schmidt signed a similar confidentiality agreement to keep their talk secret. This one also had the don't ask, don't waive clause. When Shyft started looking for buyers, Deutsche Bank contacted 6 different companies to see if they were interested. They used a standard confidentiality agreement, but these agreements didn't have the don't ask, don't waive clause. Company A eventually said they weren't interested in buying Shyft because they were working on other things. Company E also signed a confidentiality agreement, but it didn't have the don't ask, don't waive clause either. Companies F and B also signed confidentiality agreements without the don't ask, don't waive clause. And finally, Company C signed a confidentiality agreement without the don't ask, don't waive clause. So what's the story here? Well, Shyft is getting bought out, but some shareholders aren't happy about it. They think they didn't get all the information they needed. To avoid a legal fight, Shyft is giving them some extra details about how the deal was put together. Also, some executives are getting special payments to stay with the company, but at least one is planning to leave anyway. Now, my take on all this is that mergers are always a bit messy. Shareholders often feel like they're not getting the full story, and companies try to keep things secret to protect their interests. It's a delicate balancing act. In Shyft's case, it seems like they're trying to do the right thing by giving shareholders more information and trying to keep key executives on board. But the lawsuits and complaints show that it's not always easy to please everyone. I couldn't find a lot about financial figures in this specific report, but more information is available in Shyft's annual report, so that's something to keep in mind. Overall, it seems like this merger is going to happen, but it's not going to be a smooth ride. There will likely be more legal challenges and questions along the way. It's alright, that's our breakdown of Shyft's latest filing. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.